Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tilt Your Crown's production of Women of the Bible. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, as always, for your support, because without that, I would not be able to do this. Now, you know how we do it. We do not procrastinate or hesitate. We jump right into our story. So the woman that we are going to be talking about tonight, and I know you don't know her. I know you do not know her. But the woman that we are going to be discussing this evening is Rhoda, Rhoda. And you can find Rhoda because the whole point of Women of the Bible is to encourage you to learn more about these women and to do your studying on your own, because the Bible says study to show yourself approved. So you don't want to just take my word for it. You want to study and learn about her yourself. So we can find Rhoda in the book of Acts, I'm going to peep down real fast, in chapter 12, the book of Acts, chapter 12. Now that's all I'm going to give you. So you're going to have to go there and get the rest of the information. So even though this is Women of the Bible, I hate to do it, but we always have to bring the men in just to help lay down the foundation and give a little backstory. And I think that also kind of proves the fact that women don't really get the attention that they deserve, because you can't really tell their story without bringing the men into it. But that's just a little sidebar. So let's go ahead and talk about Miss Rhoda. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Now the story opens up. Let's lay our foundation so we can bring it back around. We're in the time where Peter is in prison. Peter is being held in prison by Herod, and he is waiting execution. Now, James has already been executed. The son of Mary, James, he has already been executed, and Peter is in prison waiting to be executed. Now, all of the church, they are praying. They are praying for Peter. They are asking God, they're beseeching heaven, just please save Peter. Please save Peter. Rescue him from being executed. Rescue him from Herod. Because see, once Herod executed James, everybody just got geeked up. The Jews were just excited. So Herod was like, yeah, if I got this type of response for killing James, I know that the people are just going to really be into me killing Peter. So part of it was Herod just wanted that notoriety of being the person to put Peter to death. So in order to make sure that Peter did not go anywhere, not that he could anyway, because he was in prison, but Herod wanted to be sure that Peter did not escape. So he had sets of guards, but I want you to just take note of how Peter was locked down, because this is going to show you how magnificent God is. Not only was Peter chained, but Peter was chained to the soldiers. He was lying in between two soldiers, chained himself, his hands and wrists chained, and then he was actually physically chained to the soldiers that lay on each side of him. And then there were two other sets of guards at the gate, and then there was another set that patrolled the area to make sure there was no escape. There was no escape. Peter was not going to pick a lock and get out of that. But we know that God is God. We know that God is God. So while Peter lay there in between the soldiers, chained in every possible way, an angel showed up. And the Bible says the angel struck Peter. And for some reason that stuck in my head, because the angel did not tiptoe in and just say, wake up. The angel came in and struck. When you strike somebody, you got some force behind that. But the guards didn't wake up. The Bible does not say that the guards were woken up or they were aroused or they heard anything when the angel struck Peter. So the angel strikes Peter, tells him, get up, put your clothes on, put your sandals on. So what does that tell us? Peter laying there not only chained, but you laying there in your birthday suit chained. So you cold, you're bound, and you're chained to guards. So the angel tells him, get up quickly. So even when you're doing stuff for God, you got to move fast sometimes. So the angel tells him, get up, get your clothes on, move quick, let's go. We got to go. So as they're approaching the gates in the prison, the gates open. So they get out of the prison. And then when they get to the gates at the city, at the end of the city to exit, the gates open. Now I want you to pay attention to that. I'm going to say it again. The gates of the prison opened. It doesn't say that the angel did anything. It just, as they approached, the gate opened. And then when they got to the gate that led out of the city, it opened. Peter thought he was dreaming, but he didn't stop moving. I guess he said, if this is a dream or if it's real, I'm getting some freedom. I'm going to be free in my dream or I'm going to be free for real. But either way, Peter kept moving and the angel went with him. But as Peter kept moving and kept on going, when he looked again, the angel was gone. So the first place that Peter went was to the house of Mary, James' mother. That's where he went. And this is real significant. I loved this. When I read this story, it was, and God keeps telling me, what seems like a little to you, Velma, there's so much in it if you just dig. Sometimes we have to dig a little bit. God doesn't always make it easy. He doesn't always put the answer right on the surface. Sometimes we got to put some work into this thing. And that's what I had to do with Rhoda. Peter goes to Mary's house. And there's an outer gate. You know, it wasn't just the door that led directly into the house. There was an outer gate. And the Bible tells us that the church had gathered at Mary's house to pray that Peter would be spared. So the house was full of people praying, intercessors. Just please don't let Peter lose his life. They were just probably wailing and moaning. If you get that picture in your mind, that image, people down on the floor just crying out that Peter would be released. Lord, please release Peter. Don't let him be executed at the hands of Herod. Well, in the middle of all of that, there was a knock at the gate. Now, the reason I wanted to emphasize that, because see, Peter had just come through two gates. The first gate, as he approached it, with the angel, it just opened up. And then when he got to the second gate with the angel, it just opened up. But now he's at the house of Mary and he had to knock on the gate. And when he knocked on the gate, the servant, Rhoda, came to the gate. She didn't see Peter. It says she heard the voice of Peter. And in her excitement, she ran back. And she told those that were in the house praying for Peter to be saved, delivered, released. She told them, Peter is at the door. And all of these people that were praying and believing for Peter's release said, you crazy. You crazy. Peter's not at the door. Peter's in prison. But Rhoda would not let it go. Rhoda said, no, Peter is at the door. So the people basically they just were like, if anything, you saw Peter's ghost. If you saw anything at all, which we don't believe you saw anything, but let's just, for the sake of just humoring you, let's say you did see something, it must have been his ghost. Now we're going to stop right there because I had to think on that for a minute. You have these people in the house praying to God, asking God to do something. And then when God did it, you didn't believe it. How can you pray in sincerity and ask God to do whatever it is you're asking him to do, and then when he does it, you don't believe? You would think that when she came and said Peter was at the door, the response would be, God has answered our prayers. God has done what we've asked him to do. But their response was, girl, you crazy. Go sit down somewhere. You saw a ghost if you saw anything. It's probably the wind blowing. You don't know what you're talking about. But Peter knocked again. See, that gate didn't open. And there's a reason that gate didn't open. Because see, when God does something, we got to open the gates sometimes. God can open gates. We know that. But then there are times in our life when our belief, our faith is what opens the gate. And that's what happened in this case. They had to go themselves and see for themselves that God had done what they had been asking him to do, because they were not praying faithfully. They were not praying in faith, because if they were praying in faith, their response would have been different. So they had to go and see, and then they had to open the gate for Peter to come in. So when we're asking God to do things in our life, God can open a gate and we don't have to do anything. God can open another gate and we don't have to do anything. But sometimes when God opens those gates and then it comes time for us to do our part, our faith gets weak. God has saved us from this. He took us from an apartment to the closing table. He took us to barely getting out of high school to a PhD. He took us to from a bad marriage or a bad relationship to 30, 45 years of marriage. He took us from 2 or 3 miscarriages to a house with 4 or 5 babies. See, God opened those gates. But then the first time we have to open a gate, the first time that we have to put some effort in, we say that can't happen. We forget all the gates that God has already opened in our life. We forget everything that he's already done. Even while we are on our knees praying, how are we praying? Because if you're praying for something and you're believing for something and you know that your God can do it, why are you surprised that you're healed? Why are you surprised that the cancer is no longer there? Why are you surprised that when you couldn't pay your own bills, now you're able to pay your bills, your mama bills, your auntie bills, and everybody else's bill? If you truly believe that God is God and that your prayer is hitting the ears of God. If you believe that God hears the prayers of his people, then why are you surprised? I'm not surprised when God shows up in my life. Now, I may be like, go ahead, God, do that. But I'm not surprised when God does what he has always promised he would do. God says that his plan is to build me up. His plan is to prosper me. His plan is for me to succeed. His plan is for me to do more, to go further, to enlarge my territory. So if that is what he has said, and that is what I am believing and praying for, then why would I say, when someone tells me, oh, Velma, you're going to be this or do this, or God sends a dream and I see in that dream what he is revealing to me, why would I be surprised when it shows up? Why were they surprised that Peter had escaped man if their belief was in God? So Rhoda never doubted. Rhoda said, Peter is at the gate. She didn't say, I think Peter is at the gate. And the amazing part of that is Rhoda didn't see Peter. She only heard his voice. That's all it says. She heard his voice. And that was enough confirmation for her. In just hearing his voice, she knew he had gotten away from the guards. He had escaped Herod. He had gotten through the gate. He had gotten through the other gate, and he was now at the door. Rhoda knew all of that just from hearing the voice of Peter. What do we know from hearing the voice of God? What do we know? When we fall on our face, when we fall on our knees and we cry out to God, do we really believe what we are praying for? Do we really believe it? Because see, if you believe it, you're going to start celebrating it before it happens. If they thought Peter was coming home, they should have been cooking Peter something to eat, because see, Peter, you done been through some stuff. I know you're hungry. So they should have been getting some bath water together for Peter, because if they believed that Peter was going to be released, you've been in prison, butt naked, tied up to some sweaty soldiers. I know you're going to need a bath, Peter. If they believed that Peter was going to be released, they should have been making plans for, okay, what is he going to do once he gets here? Because we know they're going to be looking for him. But when you don't make plans, where is your faith? If you truly believe that God is going to do what you think God is going to do, or what God has promised him he's going to do, then you should be making preparation. You should be making preparation. You've prayed for a house, but you ain't packed a box. You ain't checked your credit report. You praying for a car. You ain't went on no website. You ain't saved up $2, because you still got to do something. See, Peter just saw the angel open 2 gates. So when Peter got to Mary's house, why didn't he just stand there and wait for the gate to open? Peter knew he had to do something. He knew he had to knock. Now, knocking comes in all kinds of we can take that knock and put it in different situations. A knock can be filling out that application for a job that you think you may not get. A knock can be saving up that money, even though your credit score might be 530. See, God don't care about your credit score being a 530. He'll give you a house at a 530 because he will make a way to get it up to a 730. So your knocking might be you getting ready for that credit score to climb up. Your knock might be you getting ready to get off MARTA and getting into your car. And for those of you who are not from Georgia, MARTA is the bus. Your knock, if you didn't lost a child, your knock is keep that nursery set up. Continue to do what you would do, because God is going to bless your womb and you're going to bring forth that child. Your knock is to go to marriage counseling because you still love your wife. You still love your husband. You know that this is not a contract, but it is a covenant, and you are not going to walk away from a covenant. So you're going to continue to knock until somebody comes and opens that door. So Rhoda's bad, because Rhoda didn't have to do nothing but hear Peter. She didn't have to see nothing. All she just needed to hear Peter. And she said, Peter is here. So I need some Rhodas where all you have to do is hear it, and you know that God has already done what he said he would do. So thank you for tuning in to Women of the Bible. Come on, Rhoda. You know all you got to do is hear it. And once you hear it, you know what you need to do. You know what you need to do. So thank you, and be blessed.